Oh, hi everyone, it's Susie again from Esoteric Trading Solutions. Just want to go through Ripple. As you know, I'm quite bullish Ripple, and I'm a holder of Ripple, and I just obviously checking facts and going through stuff just to make sure that my position's still the right position, and you know, that I'm still very happy to hold Ripple. Just looking at Ripple, who are they actually talking to, and basically who are they targeting in terms of their own client base? Ripple pretty much is targeting some of the world's largest banks by asset size. And if we look, obviously, you know, the balance sheet size of some of these banks, they're pretty huge. And from what I can see, Ripple's in the process of talking to over 100 banks about their processing capability and their use of Ripple as a trading asset. So in other words, Ripple as a trading currency. We did hear the other day that they did their first cross-currency swap with a company in Mexico, and it was between US dollars and Mexican peso, and that was also they also use Ripple as the middle trading currency as well, which was pretty amazing. It's the first they've done, which was awesome. So they're talking to BNP, which is a seriously large bank, the fifth largest bank in the world. BNP is huge in foreign exchange and bond markets. I used to deal with BNP all the time. JP Morgan, again, sixth largest bank in the world from seventh largest. They're growing massively. Again, they're huge in fixed interest bonds, global bonds, and foreign currency, and lots of other different banking products. The Bank of Tokyo, Mitsubishi, again, ninth largest. These guys, again, are huge in FX and bond markets in the world. They're also dealing with Bank of America, who are the 11th largest bank. And these guys are really big in FX and credit cards. Barclays Bank in the UK, again, these guys, Barclays Bank's always been in private banking and has very large lists of high net worth clients who do lots of FX, equity, credit card facilities, property, investment deals that require immediate settlement, and also do a lot of cross-currency deals. So if we look at also Citibank, which is the ninth largest bank, Citibank are renowned for doing huge FX transactions, equity transactions, and credit cards. HSBC, which is very, very much focused in Asia and doing extremely well in Asia with high net worth clients, also FX, equities, and credit cards. They do a lot on that side as well. So if you look at Ripple, who they're dealing with, look at this table here, and you can actually see who they're dealing with and who's made investments. NAB, an Australian bank's actually made investments, which is interesting. NAB, one of the largest banks in Australia, major bank. Australian banks are the most profitable banks in the world. They make about $15 billion a year, which is pretty phenomenal. But again, Ripple, even though it's their own processing technology, they are dealing with literally the biggest banks in the world. The first four largest banks in the world are Chinese banks. They're obviously not in China, but they're dealing in now Singapore, and they're dealing in Asia, and they've opened up an Indian office, and India apparently is the largest remitter of funds, which I thought was pretty incredible as well. So Ripple are actually in India as well. So if you look at their client base, it's just absolutely phenomenal who they're actually targeting. So I wanted to actually have a look at that, just for my information. Yeah, India is the largest remittance receiver of funds, and also because their population, as you know, is 1.3 billion. And also they've set up a hub in Singapore as well, and Singapore is pretty much the finance hub out of Asia, apart from, you know, Hong Kong and everything else. So when we look at Europe, geography is important too, because Europe, pretty much the euro is a pretty much closed market. They've got their own directives in terms of their payment system, and, you know, they've been told that, you know, according to the European law, they've got to disclose client information. Now, you know, this could be, you know, again, Ripple could be brought in for this, particularly in terms of Switzerland and some of the Swiss banks, which have huge private clients and huge private banks. And again, private clients, as I said, do a lot of different types of transactions. Could be credit card, could be foreign currency, equities, you name it. So, could be, you know, opportunity there. If we look at geography, again, you know, we're talking parts of Africa and the Middle East that don't have any access to payment services. And if Ripple goes into that market, they could certainly make a big difference, because you don't find traditional payment services or the banks actually work in Africa or the Middle East. And, that market, even in those countries, could be huge as well, because obviously things can be done on a mobile phone. Mobile phones in Africa are absolutely huge. And, obviously the traditional bank doesn't tend to work in Africa. The biggest thing with distributed technology, that ledger technology that Ripple has, even though it can be centralized clearly, is that, it's the trust issue. People have to actually, be able to trust the financial institution or the processing institution they're actually dealing with. So Ripple is a non-finance institution, but I think also the big plus basically is the transaction speed. If you look pretty much at their competitors, Visa, they do on average about 1,700 transactions per second. MasterCard, again, do something like about nearly 2,000 transactions per second. This is according to some of their annual reports. PayPal looks like they do roughly about 115 transactions per second according to 2014 data. It might be a little bit higher than that. Bitcoin is only 7 transactions. Again, Ripple, my recent information, Ripple can do 1,500 transactions per second, and IOTA can do 500 to 800 transactions per second. So, Ripple's way up there. Don't forget they can do cross-currency settled funds. Now, when people say they can do transactions, do they mean, and this is MasterCard and Visa card, do they mean settled funds? There's a big difference between money flow that you can actually draw as cleared funds, settled funds, than money that's available but you can't actually draw down, because it means it's not cleared funds. Because sometimes on your you go into your bank, there'll be 2 different balances. One's available funds and one's settled funds, and you can't draw on those available funds until they're actually settled. So Ripple actually settles money. That's the difference. Whereas some of these other companies, it may only be available funds, but you can't actually settle real money. You can't actually get that money out because it's not actually settled yet. So it's got to be cleared funds. So there's a real difference. If you look at the credit card industry, it is bloody huge. And again, when you look at the stats, the American consumer apparently, there's $1 trillion in credit card debt, which is huge. But the biggest credit card companies, which you probably know, are the Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discovery. And if you look at those figures there, it doesn't surprise me that Citigroup is up there, 17.8%. JP Morgan's up there, Bank of America. Now, Ripple are talking to those 3 banks, Citigroup, JP Morgan, and Bank of America. They're not talking to Capital One. American Express is basically their competitor. Discovery is their competitor. And I know they're talking to Barclays as well, as I mentioned before in the previous slide. So they're talking to the largest issuers of credit cards, which is pretty amazing. Again, and these people will use, the systems of the major credit card networks in the US, which is Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discovery. Now, again, Visa, MasterCard, and American Express and the like charge lots of money in terms of using credit cards. The fees are astronomical. Credit cards, not just as the rate of interest, but also the fees for setting them up, and also if you go into overdraft and all that sort of thing. Unlike Bitcoin, Ripple is both a digital currency and an open distribution payment network, which basically can facilitate the transfer of any currency, any crypto, traditional currencies such as yen or any other type of currency. Also, which I think is really important, is they can also do alternative units of value, such as frequent flyer points. Now, in Australia, we have some very large frequent flyer point programs, and they're actually going to list them on the stock exchange. One is Qantas frequent flyer points, which is going to be listed on the stock exchange. Myer has frequent, flyer points for buying, clothes and other things. There are a lot of different programs like that. Now, even Ripple could, use its processing capability to process alternative, types of units of values or collectibles or anything else for that matter, which I think is incredible compared to, say, Bitcoin. Which I think is just an absolute, huge thing. I mean, again, Ripple is targeting banks that require remittance and fast remittance. And as I said, they're in India, and India is the largest market for remittance in the world. They have a natural response payment infrastructure, and basically, the Visas and the MasterCards of this world. It's old technology, and essentially they control 87% of the global credit market and debt card market. Now, someone like Ripple, honestly, going forward, and I really believe this, could literally put these companies out of business because their technology is so much faster, and essentially their transactions are so much faster, and also it's cleared funds. Not available funds, it's actually cleared funds, right? So there's a big difference between cleared funds and available funds and non-cleared funds. So, Ripple could also target the credit card market, charge less fees than the banks, and basically have that market as well, which is an absolutely huge market. So for me, I just see there's an enormous amount of upside with Ripple's technology and what they can actually do. And, I know Bitcoin is the preeminent, currency, cryptocurrency, because everyone knows it was the first of its type. But when you think about it, Bitcoin is actually old technology now, compared to Ripple. Bitcoin can only process 7 transactions per second. It is old technology, but I guess eventually the masses are going to come into this market, and I do believe that Bitcoin could be, sent from 5,000 to, in the future, a lot higher, because the masses don't know even now about Bitcoin or Ripple. And, because Bitcoin is the first mover, the masses will buy Bitcoin. But I really think Ripple has got just so many advantages, processing advantages and capability over Bitcoin. And I know people don't like the fact that, it's got 100 million or whatever it is, in supply. But honestly, that supply is minimal when we're talking about the sorts of volumes and the sorts of transactions the banks do, and the areas, the markets that they're in according to geography, like in India, with 1.3 billion people in the largest remittance market in the world. Okay, thanks. I hope that helps. Thanks a lot. See you. Bye.